Hey there, Nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we're back in an episode of Beast Mode. And on today's episode, we're going to show you guys the progress that we've made so far on our studio's 3,000 point Beastmen Brayherd Army for Warhammer the Old World. So for those of you guys who have been following along with this series, I've been slowly building up a 3,000 point Beastmen Brayherd Army for our upcoming games of Warhammer the Old World. And I've been actually painting up this army in stages and been making videos like this showing the progress that I've made so far. And as you can see, I have a huge chunk of this army fully completed now. In fact, it is almost done. I would say I have about maybe a quarter left of it to work on. And then this army will be able to be put on the tabletop for 3,000 points. And so for those of you guys who are new to this video series, just realize that whenever it comes to building an army using my channel, I actually paint up the army first before I actually field it onto the tabletop. The reason why is because I believe that it looks much better on my battle reports when both sides have armies that are fully painted. Plus, when you match it with Iron Major's beautiful terrain that he has for our channel, it just looks all kinds of awesome when it's fully done. And so that's what I've been focusing on this army. I have a little hashtag that I use called Painted Before Played. So on this video, we're going to talk about the progress that I've made so far. We'll talk about some of the new additions that I've added to this army. We'll talk about our overall design concept, and then finally we'll talk about exactly what our next steps are. So that being said, let's get this video on a roll. So first of all, let's talk about what we have finished first of all. So first of all, I've had this unit of 20 Ungor fully painted up. These guys have some really cool looking war paint motifs I added on these guys as well. I also painted up this unit of 20 Gore, but this is actually 25 Gore. And the reason why is because I also have a Chaos Spawn I'm using as a unit filler. And I also added another Beastman miniature. And that brings us to another unit that we worked on as well, which is my Bestigor. Now, if you'll notice, my Bestigor unit is actually quite large than the last time I actually did this video. Originally, I only had 10 Bestigor miniatures, and I had like a handful of characters, and I was planning on using a bunch of unit fillers to actually fill up the rest of it. However, it looked really sloppy. I didn't like the way it looked, but I was in a strange kind of predicament. And the reason why that was the case, because I was afraid about buying new miniatures. Because as you guys know, I am a cheapskate. And paying like a bunch of money for some, like I think it's like 60 or 80 bucks now for a box of 10 Bestigor, that is not even worth the price in my opinion. Not just to round these guys out. So I was kind of stuck in a predicament. I was like, okay, maybe I should use other miniatures to proxy some Bestigor. But the question was, what miniatures did I have in my collection? I originally was actually going to use some Dark Oath Savagers that I have from that game Warhammer Underworlds, as well as the Untamed Beasts from Warcry to fill it out. I originally was going to go with that, but then I realized I actually had 14 Beastman miniatures that weren't being used for anything right now. They're just kind of sitting in the collecting dust in the collection, and those Beastmen are the Felgor Ravagers from Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team. Now, granted, these guys are armed with chainswords, auto pistols, and grenades and stuff, which doesn't really actually fit in the medieval setting of Warhammer, the Old World. But you know what? I am a cheapskate, and I don't care about that kind of stuff. All I care about is actually saving money. So all I did for those guys, I just quickly rebased the miniatures with the same turquoise paint job that I used for the entirety of this army, and I decided just to paint it with the brown base and stuff, and then just filled in the army. Now, granted, these guys are red, so the red kind of clashes against the turquoise for the rest of the Bestigor, but you know what? It doesn't matter, though, and the reason why is because when you look at it from a distance, it looks amazing. It looks really cool with the Chaos Spawn that has some red accents on, plus the red's a nice contrasting color to all the teal, blue, and greens that we have in this army. So it just looks absolutely fantastic, and it looks kind of seamless. You won't be able to tell at a distance anyways. So I have 14 of those guys, so I put 11 of them in this unit to kind of round it out, and a Chaos Spawn as well as a Horn thing for a unit filler. The Horn thing I decided to keep because, after all, that's actually one of the rules called the Bray Horn that the Beast Lord can sound to summon ambushing units on the tabletop. The Chaos Spawn is a natural unit filler, so that looks really cool as well. I took the Shaman-looking guy, the Psyker-looking Beastman, and put him directly in this unit of Gore, so that way if I wanted to, I could actually have another wizard in this army. And speaking of wizards, I also have these guys back here. So this is my Endless Spell Flaming Bull of Death thing that you guys saw last time I used as a Razor Gore Chariot. Back there I got my Great Grey Shaman, and also got my little other last of my Felgor guys to act as crew for this chariot. So that's what we have there. You guys have seen those before. At the same time, back over here, I have my unit of 3 flock of Birds of Doom, or whatever they are, the endless spells from Warhammer Age of Sigmar. I don't play Age of Sigmar, so I don't know what they're called. What I plan on using these guys for is probably a couple things. I could use them as Chaos Hounds if I want to, as proxy. I could use them as another unit of Harpies if I wanted to, or Razor Gore. It's really up to me what I want to use these guys for. And then, of course, I have my 6 Harpies, which are based off of Warcry Furies, as well as 6 Warcry Raptor Rexes, which I plan on using to proxy as Razor Gore or Chaos Hounds or whatever else I want to use them for as well. So all of these I have actually painted up before. Same thing with the Felgor. I painted those up for Necromunda campaign. That kind of fell through. Unfortunately, just things went kind of crazy in my real life, so I wasn't able to do that campaign. But I still have the miniatures, and I can still use them for Necromunda if I want to. So, because I'm Commander Cheapskate, I do what I want. Now, the latest addition to my army is this unit here, which is my 6 Dragon Ogres. Now, these guys were it took me about a week to paint all 6 of these guys, and they came out absolutely fantastic. I love the way that this unit came out. They look awesome. They're bright and colorful. At the same time, they're also really deadly looking. So we'll talk about these guys specifically. So when it comes to my Dragon Ogres, I'm going to turn one of these ogres over to the side real quick, and we turn this guy here to the side as well so you can see their paint jobs. So if you notice, their legs are quite different. A lot of people, whenever they usually paint up Dragon Ogres, see a lot of Dragon Ogres being used as green tones for the dragon parts of their anatomy. However, when I was a kid growing up, one of the things I was inspired by was the old heavy metal pictures of Dragon Ogres that were found in magazines of White Dwarf, as well as the old classic Warriors of Chaos rule books as well. And in those books, the Dragon Ogres were originally bright red, and I always liked that really bright red color scheme, and so I thought they looked really cool, and I decided to use this for this unit as well. After all, the red is a nice contrast to the teal. It also makes them a little bit distinct as the rest of the other units as well. And that's exactly what I decided to do. Now for the back scales, or the hard scales of their bodies, I decided to alternate with green as well as blue for that part. And the reason why is so that way it draws in with the rest of the army. The rest of the army has a lot of blues, greens, and teals inside of it, so I wanted to create that look as well. And then I also used different skin tones between medium, dark, and normal light skill tones, flesh tones, to kind of create the army to add a lot of color variety to it. And then at the same time, I also gave these guys, if you look really close, I also gave them war paint as well. So as you can see, this Dragon Ogre has got war paint. And the reason why I did that is because I really like this one back here with the turquoise. The reason why I decided to do that is because I wanted to create some variety in the sculpts that we had, as well as the color schemes that we used. Unfortunately, I didn't do war paint for my Gore or my Bestigor units. I'm kind of sad that I didn't do that. But for my Ungor units, I did do war paint. And I thought it looked really cool, looked really tribal. That's very much what the Beastmen are all about, is being tribal and everything like that. And I decided to do that with my Dragon Ogres. I thought the war paint contrasted really nicely with the red flesh of their dragon portions of their bodies. So it looked really, really cool as well. Now these guys will be armed with halberds, and the reason why is because that's how these models came in when I bought them secondhand. And then, once again, the guy also mounted them on these beautiful Age of Sigmar bases, which look really cool too. So I'm not going to rebase my entire army. That's just for the birds. And at the same time, I also have an army to play Age of Sigmar if I want to later on as well. Not that I would, but, you know, I got the option open if I want to. So this is the progress I've made on my army so far, as well as the new stuff that I added, which is this huge hunky unit of Dragon Ogres. So now that we're done talking about the progress we made, let's talk about the next step for my army. So let's talk about the next step for my army. So the next thing I have, of course, is this huge honking unit of 9 Minotaurs. As you can see, this unit is actually almost done. This is another unit that's been taking me about a week and a half to paint these guys. Very, very heavily detail-oriented as well, these guys. As you can see, I have 3 normal Minotaur models that I got when I bought it from these secondhand. The rest of these guys I've converted from Reaper miniatures. So I have like a 2-headed thing that I put a Minotaur head on. I got like 2 troll-looking things that look close enough to being Minotaurs. Added some horns of this Reaper Troll, as well as a skull-looking thing for this Reaper Giant as well. So it's good enough. You know, it's close enough to actually being what Minotaurs look like. After all, it doesn't matter when you paint them up. It look really awesome as well. Did a lot of heavy flesh tones with these guys because there's a lot of skin and flesh exposed on these Minotaurs, as well as a lot of metallic paints as well. There's a lot of metal on these guys. So I actually used a variety of different colored metals like gold, silver, copper, bronze, in order to create these metal looks for these guys. And for them, I don't have war paint on them, and the reason why is because I plan on using gore effects for my Minotaurs. For those of you guys who play Warhammer Fantasy for a while, you'll know that Minotaurs are supposed to be like these gluttonous, flesh-eating, bloodthirsty creatures. And actually, there's a rule called Blood Greed, where if you have to pursue an enemy, you have to actually take a leadership test to see if you actually do it, because sometimes the Minotaurs will just stop what they're doing to eat the dead bodies that they've created. And so because I'm going to put these guys with a bunch of gore effects on these guys' weapons, on their skin, their mouths, all kinds of stuff. So in order to make them look like the rest of the army, I decided this army would dye its fur. So wherever you can see, I got fur tufts here that I dyed in different colors of blue, green, and turquoise and teal. I did that to make it look like that these Minotaurs dyed their fur portions of their body, so that way they can match with the rest of the army. And then I'm going to cover these guys with gore effect as well to make them look very unique. That red is going to look really nice against all the browns that they have as well. So, as you can see, I got a lot of different colors and metallics in this army. Is that very quick to paint? Not really. It actually takes a while to paint that way. But you know what? Instead of just painting it all silver and make it look boring, it makes it look visually very interesting as well. So it looks really awesome as well. What I got to do now, of course, is I got to dry brush the bases. Then I got to rim the bases. And then I got to dry brush the bases. Then I got to oil wash the entire miniature. Wait for it to dry and cure. Then I got to rim the bases, and then what I got to do is put blood and gore effect all of these guys using my homemade blood and gore effect to make these guys look really gruesome. And I think it's going to look really nice. It's going to contrast nicely when I'm done with that. So these Minotaurs are almost done. Just got a little bit more work to do with these guys, and then I'll be able to use them on the tabletop as well. And then lastly, the last thing I got to work on are my 3 rare choices. This Brayherd stone back here is going to be, my proxy for a Cygor. I actually plan on doing, if you notice, I'm painted in black. I actually plan on making it look like a giant block of warpstone, actually. So I plan on actually doing the obelisk part like in a greenish kind of color to make it look like it's a giant thing of warpstone with like a blue base. So I think it'll look really sick there. And of course, I got a Chaos Giant I got to paint up as well as a Gorgon. Not really sure yet how I'm going to paint these guys up yet. Don't really have an idea yet for these guys. So I'll let you guys know later on what I plan to do with those. But for now, though, I'm going to conquer the Minotaurs first, and I'll come back to the rest of the army later. Alright, you guys, so there you have it. That is my progress so far for my Studio's 3,000 Point Beastmen Brayherd Army. It is coming together quite quickly. I'm actually surprised how fast I'm actually putting this army together. Kind of change of pace for once. This one's going really, really quick. I'm really loving the result. These guys are coming out looking, they look really earth-tony and very barbaric. I love the war paint I'm giving these guys and the color schemes I'm using. It's just coming out really fantastic, and I'm super excited to see exactly what these guys do on the tabletop. The very last thing I do, of course, after I paint up all my miniatures is to actually make movement trays. So that's going to be really simple to do. Just going to use some fun foam and some backing board to make that, and those guys are ready to go. So there you guys have it. That's going to do for this video. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest, greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's good for this week, guys. I'll catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.